Welcome to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Tip of the Week. These segments are when I share with you one important tip or strategy to help you towards your success in this exciting field of multifamily real estate investing. These weekly success tips, combined with my expert interview shows, will give you all the tools you need to be a success in real estate and build your own cash flow machine. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I want to remind you that you can set up free 30-minute phone calls with me to discuss literally anything you'd like. If you have a deal you want to discuss or any topic in real estate or business even, I love talking to you guys and I'll help you in any way that I can. I don't ever sell anything on this podcast or on these phone calls, so there's no hidden agenda. Just want to help you and talk to you about whatever you like. Now, I only have time for 2 or 3 of these calls a week. So schedule early, and you can schedule them directly on my calendar, which is on lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. And one other thing, I'm always deeply humbled and grateful when people take a moment to go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. These reviews help our rankings so that we can reach more people and I can get better people on the show. If you guys like what you're hearing, take a moment, go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Now, every week I try to give shout-outs to a couple of the people that have left reviews. And so this week I want to thank Tiff J. She says, really great advice and very interesting as well. Thanks, Tiff J. I also want to thank someone called Fiji Bound. They say, with so many podcasts about real estate, this one really delivers useful information and a keen industry insight. Looking forward to following this one. I want to thank both those people for leaving a review. And guys, when you leave a review, it not just makes me feel great, but like I said, it helps us get better guests on the show. And I always want to bring you the best that I can. So in this week's real estate tip, we're going to talk about the types of partners or investors you want in your deals and how to find them. I'm also going to talk to you about selling or influencing these partners or investors to participate in your transaction, how you're going to influence them. There's some portions of this process that are involved enough in their own right, things like putting together an executive summary and putting together a syndication, that I'll need to do separate weekly tips on those 2 topics. So let's begin. So maybe you've heard people say, if you find the deal, you'll find the money. Now, this adage has always worked for me. Once you find an attractive deal that you can offer a good rate of return for an investor, you have something you can turn into what many people call an elevator pitch. And I'll explain later what that is. And that's for pitching, for investment capital or partners. Now, I don't remember a time when we've had a better opportunity in the history of the United States to find private money. There are literally billions in investment capital on the sidelines looking for investment opportunities. People that have their money in a CD, getting 1-2% interest. So, the money's there. You just have to go find it. Now, there's several things a partner can bring to your deal. They can bring money. Obviously, they can help you work the deal. They can bring mentorship and expertise, or they can also bring credibility. Now, you're looking for partners that can bring out the things that I've just mentioned that you need. Now, there's a lot of risk in any transaction, and I caution you against using family and friends whenever possible. When, deals sometimes go south, and, when it does happen, it's no fun if it's a family member or a good friend. I highly recommend that you're always the managing partner of your deal, especially if you're the one guaranteeing the debt. You have to be the decision maker. Now, there's 2 ways that a partner can bring money to a deal. They can be a debt partner, or they can be an equity partner, and I'm going to talk about both. An equity partner is just that. They have a percentage of the deal, and that percentage should include profits and losses. And if there's an equity call for money, all equity partners should contribute. And it's important that your operating agreement states that, and if they don't pay when there's an equity call, they're in default. Now, sometimes an equity partner can also be responsible for some of the tasks associated with that deal, like I just talked about earlier, including management, and other things as well. But those tasks should be very clearly delineated in your LLC operating agreement. Never do business on a handshake, guys. Never get into a deal with a partner without having those tough conversations up front. And always have a comprehensive, well-written agreement between all the partners involved. The agreement should cover every possible scenario you can think of, especially how and when to unwind the deal. Now, remember, if you're putting equity partners in on a deal with you, it's called a syndication. And syndications are governed by federal laws and require carefully constructed syndication documents and their rules regarding advertising and how you can initially contact potential investors. There's also several different kinds of, or not several, but there's a couple different kinds of investors, including accredited investors and non-accredited investors. Now, I'm going to, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to discuss how to put syndications together with different kinds of investors in another one of my interview segments, and also on my weekly real estate tip. Now, actually, let me backtrack. I actually talk about syndications in several of my interview segments, so those are good to listen to, and you'll get pieces of how to do syndications. But I'm going to devote one interview tip just to that topic. Now, there are things you can offer an equity partner besides just equity. You can, for example, give them a disproportionate portion of the cash flow. For example, if they're a 10% equity partner, maybe you give them 20% of the cash flow instead of 10%. The things you can do to sweeten it for them. Or maybe you give them a preferred rate of return, an interest rate on their money plus a piece of the upside. For example, they could have a 10% equity piece, but they also get a 5% preferred return like interest. You can also give them all or a larger percentage of the tax benefits if it's feasible. For example, if the property throws off $1 million paper loss and your equity partner owns 10%, if your equity partner is in the 40% tax bracket and you give them all the tax benefits, that equates to $40,000. So that can be these other benefits can be very significant, and they increase the return to your investors. You need to make sure you also factor everything in, like I just said, like tax benefits and these other benefits, because all these things are going to increase the benefit to the investor. Now, you want to offer as little as possible that still makes it enticing. Now, what I mean by that is you're not trying to shortcut your investors, but investors become very nervous if the deal looks too good to be true. I would say an example would be offering anywhere from 5 to 8 to 10% versus 18 to 20% return. If you offer too much, it's going to scare most sophisticated investors away for sure, and probably even unsophisticated investors. So now I'm going to talk about an elevator pitch. Basically, the definition of an elevator pitch is something you can say clearly and concisely and quickly enough that you could do it while you're on an elevator with somebody. Now, an example of an elevator pitch for attracting a partner could be something like, hey, I'm investing in real estate. I focus on multifamily properties like apartments and mobile home parks in strong growing markets. I focus on cash flow and appreciation, and I'm getting deals with cash-on-cash returns of X. Whatever percent you want to say there. Do you know anybody that might be interested in investing with me? Or if someone asks you, what do? You say, well, another example would be I buy multifamily real estate like apartments and mobile home parks in strong markets. I only buy deals where I can add value and focus on cash flow. And there's some fantastic deals out there right now with cash-on-cash returns of, again, X. I'm looking for partners to joint venture with me. Do you know anybody that might be interested? So those are a couple great examples. Now let's talk about debt partners. Debt partners are basically, they're like the bank. They're loaning you money for your deal at a rate of return or interest, and their collateral for their loan is either directly against the property or maybe they're a member of your LLC operating agreement, and it spells out how they're protected protected like a mortgage. But you can put them in an LLC operating agreement. That happens all the time. Now you can offer them monthly, quarterly, or even yearly payments, or you can even have their payments accrue. You can have interest and payments accrue till the time the deal is refinanced or sold. So here's some things I want you to think about when you're structuring your deals with debt partners. You may want to offer better terms if they offer you more money, or you may want to offer better rates for the longer they loan you the money, or better rates if they allow your payments to accrue. And these things can all be negotiated based on some of those factors. Debt partners are my favorite kind of partners, but they are harder to get than equity partners. People like to get a piece, but that doesn't mean you can't get debt partners. There are a lot of retired people out there that really don't want to be actively involved or feel like they're actively involved, and they'll loan money. But you should always be talking about deals and be saying things like, would you be interested in something like this? Now, the types of people you should talk to find debt and equity partners include financial planners, stockbrokers, insurance agents, accountants, high net worth individuals like doctors and dentists. mortgage and real estate brokers, people at your local RIA groups. I give my pitch to anybody that'll stand still long enough to hear it. So an elevator pitch example for a debt partner would be, asking them the question maybe, what are you doing with your money? Do you have an IRA or other investment that's, that you're getting 15% return on safely, or whatever percent you put in there? If the answer is no, again, I buy multifamily apartment buildings and mobile home parks in strong markets, and I sometimes borrow short-term funds from people like you to purchase and develop them. Your money is secured by a mortgage against the property, and I pay X interest. You could also say things like, I'll also pay a few months extra interest when I pay your loan off. To reassure them, you'll say things like, I always use a title company, licensed attorneys, licensed appraisers, and all the documentation is proper. And I never borrow more than the property can support. Would you have any interest in making a safe return of X on your money? Then once they've expressed an interest, you need to give them an executive summary of the deal. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll talk about what's in an executive summary in another real estate tip, because there's quite a few things, and you guys are going to want to take notes on that one. And then once they've had a chance to look at the summary, you call them and ask them if they're interested in the deal. And if they are, you immediately call your attorney and have documents sent to them to sign. So again, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you at the top.